Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to the Silent Lore channel. It is your host, Zalden Intro, and in today's video, I'm going to be discussing 3 side characters, as you could say, in the Silent Hill 2 game. To be specific, I will be talking about Eddie, Maria, and Laura, and basically I'm going to be analyzing like who they are as a character and like what do they bring to the table, and just a little more background within their character as a whole. And yeah, that's just going to be the video for this week. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. So there's 3 characters we meet in Silent Hill that I think are misunderstood, and how we as players and even people miss what was the bigger picture when these characters were introduced and for the part they play within the game. So let's start off with Eddie, as he is a breaking point character, and I'll explain that right now. We meet Eddie in the apartment section, and we see him throwing up in a toilet, and when he sees James, he becomes scared and paranoid, thinking that James may accuse him for killing the dead body that is in the kitchen in the same room as Eddie. But James doesn't accuse him of anything. There is something to notice with Eddie when you look closely. You can see his breath when he is talking, and it isn't in just this scene, but in all the scenes with Eddie in the game. We run into Eddie again in the movie theater, talking to a character we will talk about later, Laura. But when we approach Eddie, he is staring at nothing, licking melted ice cream off his fingers. This is when we notice that Eddie is breaking and turning into someone who doesn't care about anything anymore. We meet Eddie again in the Toluca prison, sitting against the wall in the cafeteria, and again is by a dead body, and James asked him what happened, and Eddie said the guy came at him and was making fun of him and decided to shoot him. But James doesn't believe him until Eddie says the body was already there when he got there. We then progress through the prison until we enter Eddie's other world, and what that means is the mind of someone's reality coming to life. And in Eddie's case, his is a meat locker, and I assume it is a meat locker because Eddie is a fat person. And to give more detail, in the Silent Hill 2 novel, it is mentioned that Eddie was always picked on and teased his whole life for being fat. This made Eddie feel ashamed of his body, and it may have developed a body dysmorphic disorder, where someone is ashamed of their body and just feel like they're disgusting and they can't stand the sight of themselves. But the last time we see Eddie is in a boss battle as we fight him in the meat locker area. And eventually James kills Eddie by shooting him. And just to talk more about Eddie, some more lore within him is that the explanation behind the coldness in his breath is that it is his personal manifestation of the town is frozen, a hostile environment reflecting his cold-blooded nature, deep loneliness, and mental descent into murder. Also in the Silent Hill novel, it states that Eddie used to work at a gas station, and a high school bully from his past continued to bully Eddie until Eddie finally snapped, and then goes on to kill the bully's dog with his father's revolver. What happens next is that the bully confronts Eddie, but Eddie proceeds to shoot the bully in the knee, and Eddie flees the scene, where he then ends up in Silent Hill. And this is what Silent Hill is, a place that doesn't punish you, but reveals you. For, Eddie, the town manifests his paranoia and rage. He's convinced that everyone is laughing at him. By the time James confronts him in the cafeteria, Eddie has fully embraced violence he fully embraced violence as his solution. Unlike James, who wrestles with guilt, Eddie chooses justification. He represents what happens when self-hatred turns outward. Moving on to our next character is Maria, the manifestation of desire. She looks exactly like James' deceased wife, Mary, but she acts completely different. She's flirtatious, confident, seductive, emotionally available in ways Mary wasn't during her illness. And that's not a coincidence. Maria is widely understood to be a manifestation created by Silent Hill, born from James' guilt, longing, and suppressed desire. Mary was sick for years. Their marriage suffered. James felt trapped, frustrated, lonely, and ashamed of those feelings. So the town gives him, Maria, a version of Mary without the suffering. But here's the tragedy Maria suffers too. Throughout the game, Maria is repeatedly killed by a Pyramid Head, only to reappear later. Each death reinforces James' guilt. It's punishment, a cycle. So in the DLC for this next part I'm about to talk about wasn't included in the PS5 remake of Silent Hill 2, but in the original one, the DLC, Born from a Wish, the side story, we see something even more disturbing with Maria. And it shows signs of Maria shows signs of self-awareness. She questions her existence. She fears being abandoned. She wants to live. That raises a terrifying possibility. What if Maria isn't just an illusion, but a being forced into existence to torment James? Maria represents temptation, denial, the desire to rewrite reality instead of accepting it. She is James' escape, and Silent Hill never lets you escape. We then move on to our final character of discussion, Laura, the innocence in the fog. Laura might seem annoying at first. She's rude and insults James every time they cross paths. But Laura is the only character in Silent Hill 2 who is truly innocent. Laura was a patient in the same hospital as Mary, and Mary befriended her, cared for her, and loved her. Laura never knew the bitter, angry side of Mary that James saw. And here's the crazy part. Laura sees no monsters, because Silent Hill has nothing to manifest for her. She has no guilt, no trauma tied to the town, no darkness for it to feed on. That's why she can walk through the fog unharmed. Laura represents pure perspective. She is the memory of Mary that James tries to suppress, the kind, loving woman he once cherished. When Laura accuses James of not loving Mary, it cuts deeper than any monster attack, because she's right. Laura is truth without distortion, and that's why she's so important. So the bigger picture here is that Eddie, Maria, and Laura aren't side characters, they're reflections. Eddie shows what happens when you embrace your resentment. Maria shows what happens when you cling to a fantasy. Laura shows what innocence looks like in a corrupted world. Each of them represents a different response to suffering, and James stands in the middle, forced to choose between denial, violence, or acceptance. That's what makes Silent Hill 2 a masterpiece. It's not about monsters, it's about people. So that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys kind of gained more thought within Silent Hill and it's the characters that it brings. And yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be this long, but sorry about that. But yeah, next week I'm gonna be planning on talking about the monsters or like all the creatures we come across within Silent Hill 2 and what kind of like story do they have and what kind of like what do they represent in terms of emotion or mental disorder they bring to James and anyone else in the game. But that's gonna do it for this week. I hope you guys will catch me next week for the next video. Zaldin out.